By August, a lot of gardens have already quit. Not because summer's over. Frost might still be 6 or 8 weeks away, but everything that bloomed in June ran out of things to say months ago. You water it. You deadhead it. It just sits there, green and empty, waiting for something that never comes. These 11 plants don't quit early. Some of them are only getting started once everything else fades. By the end of this list, you'll be able to sort any plant into one of 3 groups just by looking at it. Group 1, plants you leave completely alone. Group 2, plants that reward a little maintenance with another round of flowers. Group 3, plants that save their entire show for the end of the season. Once you know which group something belongs to, you'll never buy a plant blind again. You'll be able to walk past a nursery display and know, before you read a single tag, roughly what that plant is going to ask of you. Picture your garden in late September, still covered in color while your neighbor's has already gone quiet. That's entirely possible, and it isn't complicated once you know what you're looking for. One quick note before we start. Your own results will shift a little depending on your climate. I'll flag that only where it actually changes what you should do, not as a blanket disclaimer. Let's start with the one nobody expects. Sweet alyssum looks fragile. Tiny white or purple flowers, low to the ground, barely ankle height. But established plants handle a cool snap better than almost any other annual you'll plant this year. It smells like honey, and it doesn't care if the morning air has a bite to it. It works especially well tucked along a border edge or spilling out of a container where that low habit and that scent actually get noticed. Here's the part most people miss. Alyssum usually gets tired by midsummer. The flowers thin out, the plant starts looking scraggly, and most gardeners assume that's the end of it. It isn't. Take a pair of shears and cut the whole plant back by about 1/3. Not a light trim, a real cut. Within a couple of weeks, alyssum comes back thicker than before, and that second flush is the one that carries it into fall. 1 5-minute trim. That's the entire technique. That makes alyssum a rebloomer, and you'll hear that word a few more times before we're done. Most of the color loss you're seeing this time of year isn't bad care. It's plant selection. Petunias, zinnias, most of what gets sold in flats every May. Spectacular through July, then noticeably tired by the time August settles in. That's not a flaw. That's just what those plants were bred for. One impressive early show, not a long one. By the time you actually notice the gap, in late July or early August, the plants responsible for it have already done exactly what they were bred to do. Buying porch mums in October doesn't fix that either. Those fill one weekend of color and then freeze solid. The real fix is combining 3 different kinds of bloomers, so something is always either flowering, resting between flushes, or just getting started. Next up are pansies and violas. 2 plants everyone already recognizes, but almost nobody uses correctly. They're cool season plants first and foremost. Plant them in the middle of summer heat and they'll stall out and sulk. Save them for spring containers, and then again for a fall refresh once the days start cooling off. They come in nearly every color you could want, which makes them easy to match against whatever's already blooming nearby. Put them in the ground around September, and they'll take a light freeze, go a little limp overnight, and bounce right back the next morning like nothing happened. When a stretch of bloom starts looking thin, snip off the spent flowers. That single habit, deadheading, nothing fancier than that, is what keeps them going through several rounds of frost instead of just one. Marigolds are the budget workhorse on this list, and there's no reason to dress that up. A packet of seeds costs next to nothing, and by midsummer, you've got a solid wall of orange, gold, or deep red. French marigolds in particular tend to hold up best through an extended season, if you want the specific type to look for. I'll be straight with you on one thing. You'll sometimes hear that marigolds repel garden pests just by being nearby. The real evidence for that is much narrower than the garden center version of that claim, so I'm not going to oversell it here. What marigolds actually deliver is color, for cheap, for a long time. Keep spent blooms, snipped off through late summer, and they'll keep pushing new flowers right up until a real freeze finally ends the season. Catmint is the one to plant if you're tired of babysitting flowers. It throws up spires of lavender purple blooms in late spring, and for most of early summer, you don't touch it. No deadheading, nothing. Bees seem to prefer it over almost anything else in a summer border, if that matters to you. It also handles poor soil better than almost anything else on this list, which makes it a solid choice for a spot where other perennials have struggled. But by July, that first big flush usually fades, and the plant starts looking a little tired and floppy. This is where the trick comes in. Cut the whole thing back by about half. It feels aggressive, almost like you're doing damage. Within 2 or 3 weeks, catmint answers with a second wave of blooms that's often just as full as the first one, and that wave is what carries it into fall. Salvia, or meadow sage, is the one hummingbirds show up for. Varieties like Caradona or May Night send up narrow purple spikes that hold their color well into cooler weather, and Salvia greggi does something similar if you're gardening in a warmer zone. One honest note here. Bloom length varies a lot by cultivar and by climate, so don't assume every salvia you find at a nursery behaves the same way. Look for one labeled as repeat blooming for your region. When the flower spikes fade, shear them back by about 1/3. That's the same move as catmint, and it works for the same reason. You're clearing out spent growth so the plant redirects its energy into a fresh round of flowers. That's 5 plants now that all reward a little upkeep with more flowers later. Some want spent blooms pinched off as they go. Some want one real cutback partway through the season. Different move, same payoff. Bloom, fade, tend to it, bloom again. Quick question before we move into the next group. Which month does your garden usually start losing color? August, September, or later than that? Drop it in the comments. It'll tell you a lot about which of these 11 plants matters most for your specific setup. Everything we've covered so far gives more back when you give it a little care. The next 3 are different. You mostly plant them and let them do their thing. First in this group is hardy geranium, Rozanne, and it might be the single easiest plant on this entire list. It spreads low, almost like a ground cover, tolerates a little afternoon shade, and covers itself in violet blue flowers from late spring straight through the first hard frost. No deadheading required. Most gardeners never need to touch it during the growing season. When most perennials are winding down in September, Rozanne is still covered in flowers, still spreading, still doing exactly what it did back in June. If you want one plant that removes an entire category of garden maintenance from your year, this is it. Next is blanket flower, or Gaillardia, the red and yellow daisy-shaped bloom you've probably seen without knowing its name. It handles heat and dry soil that would wilt most other perennials, and then keeps going once the heat finally breaks. It's also remarkably drought-tolerant once established, which makes it a strong pick if your summers run hot and dry and you don't want to be out there watering every evening. Growers have documented some varieties, the Mesa series especially, holding over 100 straight days of bloom. That's a claim worth knowing where it comes from, so I'll say it plainly. That's a breeder's trial number, not a guarantee for every plant in every yard. What you can actually count on is a plant that blooms hard through summer and doesn't slow down much when September arrives. If you deadhead it every so often, it'll usually reward you with even more flowers. But even if you don't, it's still one of the longest blooming perennials you can grow. Rounding out this group is agastache, sometimes sold as hummingbird mint. It sends up tall, aromatic flower spikes with a faint scent of licorice, and they hold their shape and color well after most nearby perennials have gone quiet. Deer usually leave it alone, although no plant is completely deer-proof. Like Rozanne and Gaillardia, this one doesn't ask for a midsummer trim to keep performing. Give it good drainage and full sun, and it will hold its spikes of color well into the part of fall when most of the garden has already gone quiet around it. 3 plants so far that ask nothing of you once they're in the ground. That's 8 down. The last 3 are different. They're not filling gaps between flushes. They're the reason the garden doesn't go quiet at all. Before we get into these last 3, if you're enjoying this list, consider subscribing. It really helps the channel, and I make videos like this every week. All right, into the finale. First up is New England aster, and this is where the season flips. While everything else has been holding on, aster is just getting started. It peaks in September and October, throwing out dense clusters of purple and pink daisy-like flowers right when most of the garden has faded to green. Picture a hazy early October morning. Everything else in the bed gone brown, and a solid drift of aster still glowing purple against it. Pollinators know it too. Asters are one of the last reliable nectar sources before migrating monarchs move on for the year. So you're not just adding color, you're giving something useful to whatever's still working through your yard this late. It wants full sun and doesn't need much beyond that. If yours tends to flop by late summer, pinch the stems back once in early summer and it'll grow shorter, bushier, and carry far more flowers when fall arrives. Once it starts blooming, it holds that color for weeks, right up to the first real frost. Next is Autumn Joy sedum, and I want to be honest about this one instead of just selling it. It starts as soft pink flower clusters in late summer, sitting on thick, succulent leaves, and over several weeks those clusters deepen into a rich, rusty red. The thick leaves store water like a succulent, which is part of why the whole plant holds up so well, even when late season rain gets unpredictable. Some of what you're seeing by late fall isn't new flowers opening. It's the same flower heads holding their color and shape well after the actual bloom has finished. So if you're picky about the difference between still flowering and still gorgeous, this is the one spot on the list where that line gets blurry. What it does give you is real color that holds through several frosts without collapsing, and a genuine late season stop for monarchs passing through. Honest trade-off. For most gardens, worth it. Last on the list are hardy garden chrysanthemums, and I need to separate these from the mums sitting in a plastic sleeve at the grocery store in October. Those are florist mums, bred for one showy weekend, not built to survive winter. Hardy garden mums are bred for a different job. Florist mums are usually grown for a spectacular, perfectly timed display, while hardy garden mums are selected for landscape performance and winter survival. They can look similar, but they behave very differently once they're planted in the garden. But here's the part almost nobody tells you. Even a genuinely hardy mum needs enough time in the ground to establish roots before the soil freezes solid. Give a newly planted mum consistent water through its first few weeks, since a plant still building roots can't handle drying out the way an established one can. Buy the same hardy variety in early spring instead of October, and it comes back reliably for years. Buy it in late fall instead, and you might get one good show before winter takes it anyway. The label matters. The timing matters almost as much. 11 plants, but really just 3 habits worth remembering. Some plants want to be left alone completely. Some want one honest trim partway through the season. And some are saving their best work for exactly the moment everything else gives up. That's the actual skill here. Not memorizing 11 names, but recognizing the pattern underneath them. Once you can look at any plant and place it in one of those 3 groups, you don't need a list like this one anymore. You can walk through a nursery in May and already know how it's going to behave in October. That frost sitting on the flower at the start of this video, it used to mean the season was over. Now it just means it's almost time to find out which of your plants were built for exactly this moment, and which ones are still just getting started. Everything else in the garden goes quiet around now. Yours doesn't, because now you know which plants keep blooming, which ones reward a little attention, and which ones save their best show for last.